Imagine a global superstar, the undisputed king of a genre trapped for years. The magic was gone, replaced by manufactured mediocrity. But what if one night one audacious gamble could ignite a firestorm of raw, authentic talent and redefine a legacy? This is the story of that night and the incredible fight to reclaim a crown. Imagine a global superstar, the undisputed king of a genre trapped for years. The magic was gone, replaced by manufactured mediocrity. But what if one night one audacious gamble could ignite a firestorm of raw, authentic talent and redefine a legacy? This is the story of that night and the incredible fight to reclaim a crown. For nearly a decade, the man once hailed as an unstoppable force, a cultural phenomenon, found himself adrift. The vibrant energy that had defined his early career, the raw magnetism that made him an idol, had slowly been diluted, replaced by a string of forgettable roles in forgettable film. Each movie seemed to chip away at his artistic soul, leaving him disconnected from the very music that had propelled him to superstardom. His vibrant spark, the dangerous edge in his voice, seemed tamed, packaged for easy consumption. He yearned for the stage, for the roar of a live audience, for the visceral connection only true performance could bring. But the machinery around him, guided by a shrewd hand focused purely on the bottom line, dictated his every move. The relentless film commitments, endless recording sessions, producing safe, predictable tracks, all served to further distance him from the authentic artistry that once burned within. He was a king, yes, but one in a gilded cage, watching his creative spirit diminish. Yet beneath Hollywood pleasantries and contractual obligation, a flicker of that old fire still remained. A deep restlessness gnawed at him, a desire to break free, to show the true depth of his talent, the raw power that made him a legend. He was weary of the plastic fantastic, the manufactured smiles, the predictable scripts. He longed for the grit, the sweat, the unadulterated passion of live music. The idea of a television special began to circulate, initially just an opportunity to sell records and merchandise, but for him it became something far more profound. A chance at redemption, a shot at reclaiming his artistic soul. It was a perilous proposition, fraught with risks. Public perception had shifted. Many believed his best days were behind him. The music landscape changed dramatically. Could he still command the stage, still captivate a nation? With just his voice and presence, the pressure was immense. His longtime manager, a figure of imposing stature and relentless commercial drive, saw the special as purely financial, a vehicle to promote new material and boost flagging sales. He envisioned a wholesome, family-friendly show, complete with Christmas carols and carefully choreographed numbers. This manager, a master manipulator, a strategic genius in brand management, focused solely on commercial viability, not artistic integrity. He believed in controlling every aspect of his star's image, ensuring it remained palatable and profitable, not malicious. His ambition and protective instincts often stifled true creative expression, seeing recent films as a successful strategy. Despite sacrificing depth, the manager's vision clashed violently with the performer's burgeoning desire for authenticity. The performer, however, had a different vision. He wanted something raw, intimate, a stripped-down performance that would remind people of where he came from, the electrifying power that had once defined him. He envisioned a show that would peel back Hollywood artifice and reveal the true artist beneath. He pushed back against the manager's conventional ideas, insisting on creative control, a rare display of defiance from a man who often acquiesced to his powerful mentor. The tension between them was palpable, a constant tug-of-war between commercial expediency and artistic rebirth. As plans for the special progressed, the world outside was undergoing its own seismic shifts. The year was 1968, a tumultuous period marked by social unrest and profound national tragedies. The assassination of a towering figure in the civil rights movement sent shockwaves across the globe, leaving a deep imprint on the collective consciousness. It was a moment that forced many, including the performer, to confront the stark realities of the world, to question their place and to consider the power of their voice. The weight of these events resonated deeply. He realized his platform carried a responsibility, feeling an urgency to create something meaningful reflecting the turbulent times. This newfound awareness fueled his artistic rebellion, adding depth and purpose to his desire for an authentic comeback. He wanted his music to speak not just to entertainment, but to something more profound, resonant with the human experience of that era. He started to pour his heart and soul into preparations. The initial concept involved elaborate sets and pre-recorded tracks, but the performer fought tirelessly for a different approach. He insisted on live performance, on a raw, unvarnished presentation, showcasing his true vocal prowess and magnetic stage presence. He wanted to feel the energy of a live audience, to improvise, to connect deeply. The rehearsals became a crucible where he shed his cinematic persona and rediscovered the electrifying performer within. He surrounded himself with musicians who understood his vision, who could match his intensity and improvisation. They jammed for hours, exploring old songs, reimagining classics, experimenting with new sounds. The energy was electric, a palpable sense of excitement building. As the artist reconnected with his roots, he picked up his guitar, something he hadn't done meaningfully in years, and the chords resonated with newfound freedom. He sang with a passion dormant for too long, his voice a powerful instrument conveying longing, joy, and pain. The intimate setting, a small stage, surrounded by a select audience, allowed for vulnerability and raw emotion absent from his recent work. He told stories, shared anecdotes, and bantered with the audience, creating a deeply personal, authentic connection. This was not the polished, distant star of the silver screen. This was the performer stripped bare, relying solely on his talent and charisma. The manager, ever the pragmatist, initially resisted these radical changes. He worried about the unpredictability of live television, the risks of straying from the pre-approved script. He argued for more traditional segments for safety and control. He saw the performer's desire for raw authenticity as a dangerous gamble that could jeopardize the project. He tried to steer the production back towards a conventional, commercially viable format, but the performer was resolute. He knew this was his moment, his last chance to prove himself. He stood firm against the manager's objections, asserting his artistic autonomy with unwavering determination. The manager, recognizing his star's conviction and the potential for a groundbreaking moment, eventually conceded, albeit reluctantly, to some of the performers' demands. The night of the special arrived. Shrouded in anticipation and trepidation, the studio buzzed with nervous energy. Would this gamble pay off? Could the king reclaim his throne? He walked onto the set dressed in a striking black leather outfit that exuded confidence and raw masculinity, a stark contrast to his film career's theatrical costumes. It was a statement. He was back to play his own game. The first notes filled the air, and an immediate transformation occurred. The years of artistic compromise melted away, replaced by an electrifying stage presence that captivated everyone in the room and soon millions watching at home. His voice, rich and powerful, soared, imbued with newfound depth and emotion. He moved with a primal grace, his body language conveying every nuance. He was fully present, fully alive, connecting with songs and audience on an almost spiritual level. One segment became legendary. An informal, impromptu jam session with his original band members seated on a small stage, surrounded by adoring fans. It was pure, unadulterated rock and roll, raw and unfiltered. He joked, he laughed, he sang with an abandon sorely missed. The energy was infectious, a testament to his enduring power as a live performer. He poured his heart into every note, channeling years of frustration and longing into a performance both vulnerable and commanding. The cameras captured every bead of sweat, every heartfelt expression, every spontaneous moment. It wasn't just a concert. It was a revelation, stripping away the manufactured image to reveal the true artistic genius beneath. He sang songs of struggle, of love, of hope, with an intensity that resonated deeply with the national mood. He wasn't just performing. He was communicating, connecting with the universal human experience. The special was a triumph. It wasn't just a successful television program. It was a cultural event that redefined a legend. The reviews were ecstatic, public response overwhelmingly positive. He had not only reclaimed his artistry, he had transcended his past, proving that true talent, when unleashed, is unstoppable. The world saw a different side of him, a more mature, profound artist who had embraced the complexities of his time. The manager, despite initial reservation, reaped the rewards of this unprecedented success. The gamble had paid off handsomely, proving that even commercial success could stem from artistic integrity. The special opened new avenues for the performer, leading to sold-out residencies and a renewed sense of purpose. He was no longer just a movie star. He was once again the king of live performance, a true musical icon who had dared to reinvent himself and succeeded beyond all expectations. His legacy was cemented not just by his early groundbreaking work, but by this audacious, heartfelt return to his roots. The comeback was complete, a testament to artistic conviction and the enduring magic of a true superstar. It was a story of resilience, of breaking free from the golden cage, of finding one's authentic voice in a world craving realness. He showed everyone that sometimes to move forward, you must first look back, embrace your truth, and then with unwavering courage blast it out to the world. The triumph of the special was immediate and unequivocal, a resounding declaration that the king was not only back but more powerful, more authentic than ever before. The airwaves hummed with renewed interest, not just in his music but in him. The man who had dared to peel back the layers of artifice and reveal his true self. Critics who had once dismissed him as a faded movie star now hailed him as a musical visionary, reborn, praising the raw energy and profound emotional depth of his performance. The public, starved for genuine artistry in an increasingly commercialized landscape, devoured every note, every candid moment of the special. This wasn't merely a ratings success. It was a cultural phenomenon, a collective exhale of relief and excitement that their idol had found his way back home. The gilded cage, once a symbol of his artistic confinement, had been shattered, and from its ruins emerged an artist, revitalized, emboldened by the roar of validation. But with this newfound freedom came a complex array of challenges, tests of his resolve that would prove just as defining as the struggle to produce the special itself. The manager, ever the astute businessman, was quick to capitalize on the unprecedented surge in popularity. The phone lines at the record label buzzed incessantly. Concert promoters clamored for his return to the live stage. Television executives proposed new projects, eager to recreate the magic. Yet the performer approached this whirlwind of opportunity with a cautious wisdom that had been forged in the crucible of his decade-long artistic exile. He understood that this second chance was not merely about selling records or filling stadiums. It was about honoring the artistic integrity he had so fiercely fought to reclaim. He refused to be rushed, to be packaged back into the same mold that had nearly suffocated his creative spirit. His battle with the manager, far from over now. Shifted. The manager, emboldened by the special's commercial success, saw an open road to even greater financial triumph, envisioning a relentless touring schedule and a rapid-fire release of new commercially optimized albums. But the performer had tasted true artistic liberation, and he was no longer willing to compromise. He insisted on a deliberate pace, on creative control over his setlists, his recordings, and crucially the very direction of his sound. He sought out collaborators who shared his renewed passion for raw, soulful music, moving away from the polished saccharine arrangements that had characterized much of his recent past. This period was marked by an intense, almost feverish return to songwriting. He spent countless hours in his home studio, pouring the entirety of his life's experiences, the frustrations of Hollywood, the joy of rediscovery, the pervasive anxieties of the turbulent 1968 world, Into his lyrics and melodies, his music became more introspective, more blues-infused, reflecting a maturity and depth that had been absent from his earlier, more exuberant hits. He wrestled with themes of identity, fame, and the search for meaning, channeling his inner conflicts into powerfully resonant ballads and searing rock numbers. This was not music designed for easy consumption. It was music born of hard-won experience, infused with the grit and vulnerability of a man who had stared into the abyss of artistic oblivion and pulled himself back from the brink. The first post-special album, released amidst a storm of anticipation, was a testament to this profound shift. It wasn't the immediate chart-topping smash that the manager had hoped for, but it garnered immense critical acclaim, lauded for its authenticity and artistic courage. For the performer, critical validation became more meaningful than commercial numbers. It proved that his gamble had paid off, not just in popularity, but in respect. The public too responded, perhaps not with the frenzied adoration of his youth, but with a deeper, more abiding appreciation for his renewed artistry. They recognized the honesty in his voice, the raw emotion that permeated every track. This album marked the true beginning of his artistic second act, a period defined by courageous experimentation and a relentless pursuit of musical truth. His return to live performance was met with a fervor that surpassed even the wildest expectations. He wasn't just performing. He was conducting a masterclass in stage presence, an electrifying communion between artist and audience. The intimate setting of the special had given way to grander venues, but he retained that sense of personal connection, addressing the crowd with an easy charm and sharing stories that made each concert feel like a private conversation. He moved with a renewed vigor, his iconic gyrations imbued with a confident swagger that transcended mere showmanship. His voice, now richer, more textured, soared through his classic hits, reimagined with a newfound bluesy grit, and resonated deeply with his new, more introspective material. Each performance was a catharsis, not just for the audience but for him, a release of years of pent-up creative energy. He embraced the unpredictability of live music, often improvising, extending songs, and allowing the raw energy of the moment to guide his performance. This was the antithesis of the tightly choreographed, predictable film sets he had endured for so long. Here on stage, he was truly free. Yet this freedom also brought new pressures. The burden of expectation was immense. Could he sustain this level of artistic intensity? Could he continue to innovate without succumbing to the commercial demands that still loomed large? There were moments of doubt, whispered fears that he might slip back into the comfortable routine that had once stifled him, but each time the memory of his artistic wilderness, the gnawing hunger for authenticity, propelled him forward. He sought out diverse musical influences, delving deeper into gospel, blues, and country, consciously broadening his artistic palette. He surrounded himself with a new inner circle, a cadre of trusted musicians and creative advisors who championed his artistic vision and challenged him to push his boundaries even further. This period was also marked by a profound personal transformation. The superficiality of Hollywood had given way to a deeper engagement with the world around him. He became more outspoken, more reflective, his public persona aligning more closely with the introspective artist revealed in his new music. He grappled with the complexities of his own fame, the immense power of his platform, and the responsibility that came with it. The political and social turmoil of the late 1960s continued to cast a long shadow, and while he rarely directly addressed political issues in his music, the undertones of struggle, resilience, and hope resonated powerfully with a nation in flux. He understood that his music, in its raw honesty, offered a form of solace and connection in a fractured world. His journey was far from over, but the blueprint for his reinvention had been laid. The special was not just a comeback. It was a genesis, the powerful spark that ignited a second, even more profound chapter in his legendary career. He had not only found his voice again, he had deepened it, broadened its scope, and infused it with the wisdom of experience. He had proven that an artist could reinvent themselves, break free from self-imposed limitations, and continue to ascend even after reaching the pinnacle of fame. This was the king not just back on his throne but building a new, more magnificent kingdom brick by authentic brick. With every note he sang, every chord he struck, and every soul he touched, his story became a living testament to the unwavering power of artistic conviction, a beacon for anyone who dared to dream of breaking free from their own gilded cages and reclaiming their true, undeniable essence. The road ahead was long, filled with its own twists and turns, but one thing was clear. The king was no longer just a performer. He was a force of nature, a phoenix risen from the ashes, ready to set the world ablaze once more on his own terms. The roar of that comeback special, the visceral embrace of an audience that had yearned for his true voice, it was like a dam breaking. A deluge of opportunity, of adoration washed over him, affirming every arduous battle fought for artistic control. He walked onto stages not just as a performer, but as a liberator of his own spirit, each note a declaration of independence. The concert halls, once filled with polite applause for a fading star, now vibrated with an almost religious fervor, as if his voice had become a conduit for something primal, something deeply human. He wasn't merely singing. He was pouring his very soul into every lyric, every guttural growl, every soaring falsetto. This was the king unchained, and the world devoured it. The tour that followed were a triumphant blur, a whirlwind of sold-out nights and critical hosannas. He loved the road, the raw energy of live performance, the immediate connection with the crowd. It was addictive, a powerful antidote to the sterile perfection of film sets. But the sheer velocity of it all, the relentless demand to constantly give, to perpetually ignite, that electrifying magic began to fray at the edges of his formidable composure. The manager, emboldened by the tsunami of renewed revenue, pushed harder, faster. There was always another city, another album to record, another television appearance to schedule, another licensing deal to finalize. The conversations that were once tense negotiations now became quiet battles of attrition. The manager's logic, a relentless tide of numbers and market share, against the artist's dwindling reserves of patience and creative energy. Strike while the iron's hot became the manager's unceasing mantra, a subtle shift from partnership to relentless pressure. The performer found himself caught in a new kind of gilded cage, one woven not of neglect, but of insatiable expectation. He was lauded, adored, but also paradoxically more alone than ever. The distinction between the man and the myth blurred, then evaporated entirely. Every public interaction became a performance, every private moment potentially just a breath away from public consumption. The quiet moments, the sacred spaces where he used to find solace and inspiration, grew increasingly scarce, replaced by the relentless hum of expectation and the ever-present glare of the spotlight. He'd pour himself into new music, raw and confessional, pushing boundaries with bluesier inflections and gospel harmonies. But the creative, well, no matter how deep, began to feel the strain. He found himself wrestling with a profound exhaustion, not just physical but spiritual. Was he truly free? Or had he simply traded one set of chains for another, albeit glittering ones? The vibrant passion that had fueled his comeback now felt like a heavy cloak suffocating him with its warmth and weight. He started to see the cracks in the carefully constructed facade of his renewed fame. Sleep became elusive, a fleeting stranger. The easy laughter, once so genuine, sometimes felt forced, a practiced reflex for the cameras. He craved solitude. Yet the moment he found it, a crushing loneliness would descend, a hollow echo in the vastness of his success. His closest relationships, already strained by years of Hollywood's demands, began to buckle under the weight of this new relentless pace. Friend worried, seeing the familiar sparkle in his eyes occasionally dim, replaced by a quiet weariness. He was always on, always performing, even when he desperately wanted to just be. Then came the call that would shatter his world, a seismic shock that dwarfed any artistic or commercial pressure. It was news of the sudden passing of an old friend, a beloved confidant from his earliest days, a musician who had known him before the fame, before the films, before the king. This was a man who had seen him only as himself, a grounded presence in a life increasingly untethered by reality. The news hit him like a physical blow, ripping through the carefully maintained armor of his public persona. Grief raw and uncompromising swept through him, exposing vulnerabilities he'd long kept buried. He retreated, canceling engagements, ignoring calls. The world outside suddenly muted and meaningless. The music which had always been his sanctuary felt distant, a cruel reminder of the joy he now felt incapable of accessing. He walked through his opulent home like a ghost, the silence amplified by the absence of a voice he could truly trust. This was the ultimate test of his resilience, a crucible far more brutal than any artistic struggle. For weeks he wrestled with the despair, the unfairness, the stark realization of life's fragility. He questioned everything: his relentless pursuit of fame, the sacrifices made, the very purpose of his art in the face of such profound personal loss. Was it all just sound and fury signifying nothing? The manager, though sympathetic, was also pragmatic. The show, as they say, must go on. But for the first time his star genuinely didn't care. He was lost adrift in a sea of grief, the public's clamor for his presence feeling like a distant, irritating buzz. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, a different kind of sound began to emerge from the depths of his despair. It wasn't the joyous, defiant rock and roll of his comeback. It was something deeper, darker, infused with the ache of loss and the quiet wisdom of suffering. He found himself drawn back to his guitar, not out of obligation, but out of a desperate need to channel the storm within. The notes that flowed were tinged with melancholy, yet also with a profound sense of connection to something larger than himself. He began writing again, lyrics born of tears and introspection, melodies that ached with a universal longing. This wasn't just music. It was therapy, a dialogue with his own pain, a slow, arduous climb back towards the light. His voice, already renowned for its emotional range, deepened further, gaining a gravitas that only true sorrow could impart. The world might have seen him as the king, indestructible, but in his private agony he was simply a man broken and rebuilding, finding a new profound purpose in the very act of creating. This period of intense grief and profound self-reflection became a quiet pivot, a hidden transformation beneath the surface of his public life. It refined his art, stripping away any lingering artifice, leaving only raw, exposed truth. He would emerge from this darkness not unscathed, but undeniably stronger, his music imbued with a soulful vulnerability that transcended mere performance. He learned that even in the brightest spotlight, true strength came from embracing the shadows, and that the deepest wellsprings of art often sprang from the most profound personal trials. The king was still performing, still captivating. But now his music carried the echoes of a broken heart, beating on louder and truer than ever before. He was ready to face the world again, not as an icon, but as a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit, forged in fire and tempered by loss. The silence, once a heavy shroud, began to thin, replaced by a delicate, almost hesitant melody emerging from the core of his grief. Days bled into weeks, and the king, stripped of his crown of external validation, found himself not broken but profoundly reshaped. The world outside still clamored, the manager's calls growing more insistent, yet the noise felt distant, like echoes from a life he was slowly shedding. He wasn't ready to perform, not in the old way, not for the roaring crowds or the relentless cameras. He was relearning how to breathe, how to feel the ground beneath his feet, how to reconnect with the simple, raw pulse of his own heart. His guitar became his only confidant, its strings vibrating with the sorrow, the questioning, the quiet embers of a renewed faith in something beyond fame. He began to compose not for an audience but for himself, for the friend Lost for the fragile beauty of life's fleeting moments, the melodies were darker, richer, infused with a bluesy lament that spoke of universal loss, yet held a whisper of enduring hope. His voice, already a powerhouse, now carried a gravitas that could only be forged in suffering, a resonant vulnerability that transcended technique. The pressure mounted, but this time he met it with a quiet resolve born from his recent descent into darkness. When the manager finally broke through his self-imposed isolation, proposing a triumphant return, it was met not with defiance but with a calm, unwavering condition. He would return, but on his own terms, and the music would be different. It would be an honest reflection of where he was, not where the world expected him to be. The manager, ever the pragmatist, could see the new depth in his stars' eyes, the almost spiritual aura that now surrounded him. He reluctantly agreed, sensing that this raw, unvarnished truth might ironically be the most commercially potent path of all. The first public appearance was not a grand concert hall spectacle, but an intimate televised interview, a rare glimpse into the soul of the king. He spoke not of hits or box office numbers, but of loss of human connection, of the profound power of music to heal and transcend. His honesty was disarming, his humility profound. He played a new unreleased song, just him and his acoustic guitar, a haunting melody that was both a eulogy and a quiet anthem of resilience. The nation watched, transfixed, tears welling in millions of eyes. This was not just a performer. This was a man who had walked through fire and emerged not unscathed, but infinitely more real. His true comeback performance, carefully chosen, was not a return to the explosive rock and roll of his youth, but a series of intimate, deeply personal residencies in Las Vegas, a city synonymous with grandeur and excess. Yet he stripped it back. He transformed opulent showrooms into sanctuaries of sound, creating a space where the audience felt less like spectators and more like witnesses to a profound journey. Dressed not in the flamboyant costumes of his film roles, but often in simple, elegant suits, he commanded the stage with a stillness and emotional power that eclipsed any elaborate choreography. He opened with a gospel-tinged ballad, his voice a balm, weaving through lyrics that spoke of pain and redemption, not shying away from the brokenness that had become part of his story. He reimagined his greatest hits, infusing them with the bluesy grit and raw emotion of his current artistic truth. Jailhouse Rock was no longer just a playful anthem. It was a defiant roar of a man breaking free, resonating with a deeper, almost spiritual liberation. Heartbreak Hotel became a searing lament, a communal acknowledgement of shared sorrow. Each note was a prayer, each lyric a confession. He didn't just sing. He testified. The audience, a mix of old fans and new converts, was spellbound. They didn't just clap. They wept, they cheered, they experienced a catharsis. Alongside him, he had found a way to connect not just with their joy, but with their universal human experience of sorrow and resilience. This period marked the complete redefinition of his legacy. He was no longer just the king of rock and roll. He was the king of soul, the king of reinvention, the artist who dared to be vulnerable in the unforgiving glare of the spotlight. His music became a bridge connecting the raw energy of his past with the profound introspection of his present. He actively sought out diverse collaborations, bringing in gospel choirs, blues harmonica players, and string sections that added layers of texture and emotion to his sound. He recorded albums that consistently pushed artistic boundaries, earning him critical accolade and a deeper, more enduring respect from his peers. He used his platform not for fleeting commercial gain, but for genuine artistic exploration. He championed new songwriters, mentored emerging artists, and quietly supported social causes close to his heart. The relentless touring continued, but it was now punctuated by periods of intentional quiet, of retreat, allowing him to replenish his creative well and maintain his personal equilibrium. He had learned the hard lesson that true freedom wasn't about escaping all pressures but about discerning which pressures to accept and which to resist. His relationship with the manager evolved into something akin to a mutual respect, albeit still tinged with the manager's commercial leanings. The manager understood finally that his star's greatest asset was his authentic heart, and that true lasting success came not from manufactured image, but from undeniable truth. The king, for his part, had gained an unshakable inner compass. He no longer felt bound by expectations, but liberated by his purpose. He knew his voice, forged in the crucible of his life's trials, was his most powerful tool, a conduit for stories, for emotions, for a shared humanity. He understood that his fame was not just a vehicle for personal glory, but a responsibility, a gift to be wielded with integrity. He embraced the wisdom that came with age and experience, recognizing that the most profound art often emerged from the deepest wound. His smile, once a practiced reflex, now held a genuine warmth, a quiet understanding of life's beautiful, messy complexities. The sparkle in his eye, once dimmed, had returned, not with the dangerous edge of youth, but with the compassionate glow of a soul that had seen the depth and chosen to ascend. He had not just come back. He had come home to himself, a home built on authenticity, resilience, and the unwavering power of music to heal, to connect, and to inspire. He stood ready not just to perform, but to live, every note, every breath, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. The next chapter, he knew, would not be about reclaiming a throne, but about building a lasting legacy of truth, one soulful note at a time. He had found his ultimate purpose, to share his journey, scars and all, with a world desperate for realness. His transformation was complete, a phoenix rising not from literal ashes, but from the ashes of his own sorrow, soaring with a newfound grace and an eternal song from the hushed reverence of those Vegas showrooms. A new gospel emerged, not from a pulpit, but from the raw, amplified honesty of a voice reborn, a sound that carried the weight of every challenge overcome, every lesson learned. The king, once a prisoner of his own fame, a gilded bird yearning for open skies, had finally found his truest freedom within the vibrant, boundless confines of his own art, each soulful note a testament to a harrowing journey through the wilderness of compromise and the crucible of loss. What the world had witnessed was more than a spectacular comeback. It was a profound testament to the human spirit's capacity for resilience, for audacious reinvention, and for finding its most authentic, unvarnished expression. Even in the face of overwhelming adversity, he had peeled back the layers of Hollywood's polished sheen, survived the suffocating embrace of relentless commercialism that threatened to drain his very essence, and walked through the deepest shadow of personal grief, emerging not merely whole but profoundly transformed, etched with the wisdom of lived experience. The youthful swagger, once his defining, almost reckless characteristic, had matured into a profound gravitas, a silent strength that resonated deeply with an audience hungry for substance, for a voice that understood the intricate, often painful complexities of their own lives. His performances became less about a carefully choreographed spectacle and more about a visceral, almost sacred communion, each song a shared moment of vulnerability and collective strength. The subtle blues inflections born of heartache and perseverance, the yearning gospel harmonies that spoke of redemption, the unexpected country tinges that now laced his sound. They weren't just musical choices or stylistic explorations. They were the very echoes of a life lived fully, honestly, scars, and all he understood deeply, profoundly, that the deepest wells of artistry are often found not in comfort or ease, but in the searing crucible of struggle, and that the most resonant truths are those born of honest, unvarnished pain. His guitar, once almost a prop in his earlier, flashier days, became an extension of his very soul, its resonant chords speaking volumes, complementing a voice that now commanded not just fleeting attention, but an almost spiritual reverence. This wasn't the distant, untouchable idol of the silver screen. This was a man who had faced his innermost demons, embraced his deepest flaws, and poured every fractured, mended piece of himself into his music, creating an unbroken tapestry of sound that spoke directly to the universal human condition. The relationship with his longtime manager, once a volatile battleground of clashing wills, had softened into a grudging, almost symbiotic respect, a silent acknowledgement that the artist's unwavering integrity had paradoxically unlocked the greatest and most enduring commercial success. The manager, ever focused on the immutable bottom line, had finally seen the undeniable transcendent power of authenticity, the way it transcended fleeting trend, and connected on a deeply, irrevocably human level that even he, the master pragmatist, could not deny. And the king, for his part, understood that his platform, his vast and unprecedented reach, carried a profound responsibility that extended far beyond mere entertainment. He wasn't just selling records or filling auditoriums. He was offering solace, breathing inspiration into weary souls, and fostering a sense of shared humanity in a world that felt increasingly fragmented and profoundly uncertain. His legacy, once primarily defined by the sheer explosive force of his early impact, was now cemented even more profoundly by his courage to change, to grow, to continually seek a deeper, more personal truth within his art. He had shown the world that true artistry is not static, that it evolves, adapts, and draws its most profound strength from every triumph and every devastating setback. The boy who burst onto the scene with electrifying, almost dangerous energy had matured into a profound contemplative artist whose voice, imbued with the hard-won wisdom of experience, spoke directly to the very soul of a generation, echoing their hopes, their fears, and their longing for genuine connection. He became a beacon not just for aspiring musicians, but for anyone who felt trapped by external expectations, anyone yearning to break free from their own gilded cages and find their true, undeniable essence. His journey was a living testament that redemption isn't just a comforting concept. It's a fiercely fought battle, a defiant, often painful reclamation of self against the currents of conformity. He had proved that the most powerful form of freedom isn't the absence of all constraints, but the internal fortitude to define your own terms, to sing your own authentic song, no matter the insistent chorus of dissenting voices around you. He embraced the quiet solitude that once haunted him with a crushing loneliness, finding in it not emptiness, but a profound space for reflection and creative replenishment, a necessary counterpoint to the relentless demands of his public life. He learned to guard his inner peace, to nurture the fragile creative spark with a fierce protectiveness that had been notably absent in his younger, more compliant days. His smile, once a practiced charm for the cameras, now radiated a genuine warmth, an unburdened joy that came from living a life truly aligned with his deepest values and artistic conviction. The dangerous sparkle in his eye, a hallmark of his youth that hinted at rebellion, had returned, transformed not into reckless abandon, but into a knowing glint of compassion, of understanding, born from having navigated the treacherous waters of fame and the isolating depths of personal loss. He had found his anchor, his true north, not in external validation or fleeting adoration, but in the unwavering conviction of his own artistic soul. He knew now with absolute clarity that his voice was a sacred gift, a potent conduit for raw emotion, for shared experiences, for the unspoken longings and triumphs of humanity. It wasn't about the charts, the sold-out shows, or the adoring crowds that flocked to him. It was ultimately about the profound connection, the brief sacred moment when his truth resonated with another's, when a shared understanding flowed effortlessly between performer and listener. He became a mirror reflecting not just his own complex journey, but the universal struggles and triumphs inherent in every human life, a testament to the shared tapestry of existence. His music, enriched and deepened by his trials, became a timeless tapestry of sound, weaving together narratives of love, loss, defiance, and ultimately an enduring radiant hope. He continued to create, to innovate, to push the boundaries of his art, not out of external obligation, but out of an unquenchable inner fire, a burning desire to give voice to the inexpressible. His final acts on stage were not the desperate flailings of a fading star attempting to recapture past glories, but the profound, resonant expressions of an artist completely at peace with his purpose, fully present in every note, every gesture, every silent moment between the songs. He didn't just perform. He communed, he healed, he inspired, leaving an indelible mark on the souls of all who witnessed him. The king had not merely reclaimed his throne. He had redefined the very nature of royalty, demonstrating that true power lay not in external dominion, but in the boundless, compassionate depths of an authentic heart. His story told in every electrifying chord, and every heartfelt lyric became a permanent inscription on the soul of popular culture. A timeless testament to the fact that even in the most glittering of cages, the human spirit, fueled by an unwavering artistic conviction, will always find a way to sing its truest song louder, prouder, and more beautifully than ever before. He taught us that the greatest victory isn't the one achieved over others or over external circumstances, but the one within ourselves, the brave, quiet triumph of becoming precisely who we were always meant to be. His legacy endures not just as a collection of iconic songs or a vibrant image, but as a timeless narrative of courage, self-discovery, and the profound, transformative power of art. He showed us that the journey back to oneself, no matter how arduous or fraught with shadows, is always the most rewarding voyage of all, the ultimate destination of a life truly lived. And in the silent, resonating echoes of his final perfect note, we hear not an ending, but an eternal truth vibrating still through the years, reminding us all to find our own unique voice, to embrace its authentic power, and to sing it boldly to the world for all time. What did you find most inspiring about this story of artistic reinvention and resilience? Share your thoughts below.